Hello, and welcome to Speak Honest. I am your host and certified relationship coach, Jennifer Noble. It has been my passion for over a decade to help women like you heal what's been holding you back from having the relationships you deserve. Are you struggling with a relationship where you can't seem to voice your emotions, needs, and boundaries without having it blow up in your face? Then you have found the right podcast, my friend. Get ready for practical tips, empowering truths, and honest conversations. Now, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Speak Honest. On today's episode, I get to talk with Sonja. Sonja is actually another coach that I know from the Integrated Attachment Theory program that we both took together. And she's starting to have a little bit of an issue with her coaching practice. What I really love about this conversation is it's not necessarily about a relationship with someone else, but the relationship she's having with herself and with her future clients and the clients she's having now, and how she can really work on that. What I love most about my conversation with Sonja is her vulnerability to really go there. If you're out there right now and you're a coach and you're trying to figure out all of this stuff, one of the greatest things that we can do is just really own our woundedness, is really own the parts of ourselves that we struggle with, and being vulnerable about that and really showcasing on air for everyone to hear that she's struggling. That takes a lot of courage. And I just give Sonja mad respect for that. And so I just want to say, if you're out there and you're a coach and you're not sure what you're doing or you're not sure what's going on, I want to remind you that a wounded healer is someone who has the potential to change someone's life. And not because it's our responsibility to do so, but because we get to be the vessel for their change. And what an amazing and honorable opportunity that is for us. So as we dive into the episode, I just want you to kind of keep a listen for the somatic work that I really take Sonja through, and I'll talk more about that later. But for right now, enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, today on the podcast, I'm actually going to be talking with Sonja, and Sonja is someone that I know and I've had chats with before, so I'm really excited to have her on the podcast today, and I'm going to go ahead and let her get started on what she needs help with today.
Yeah, so I am actually a fellow coach, and and one of my trainings is one shared with Jennifer, which is the Integrated Attachment Theory, but I am a healed FA, but I do have still tweaks of things that happen and come on in my life, sometimes in different areas than relationships. And what I'm noticing this is really to do actually with like my coaching business as I'm starting it and promoting it, and is that, there's endless things you can do. So there's endless, ways that you can, try to get in touch with people who might, need your help. And there's endless, like ways you can tweak your website, and there's just all these different things you can do. And so, I feel I'm pretty good about actually taking steps and doing them. But I find that this seems to be triggering. I'll just use that word. It's something in me that is maybe some lingering perfectionism. It's getting to be, so I've been trying to, I got a little too busy in my life. And so I've been trying to pace it out more and some of these steps. And as I'm doing that, I feel like I'm going to go so far as to say almost a place of despair. Like it kind of feels like if I don't do those steps, as it's just, work out, like I have to do all the steps or it's not going to work out. I know there's more steps I could be doing. I'm really going to that place, and I don't like it. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah. So tell me more about, if you want to get more specific about that, like what kind of, what types of steps and how is this like holding you back?
So I think what it's holding me back from is just being at the step I'm at, like being able to be at the step I'm at without. Although I do think, so both being at the step I'm at, and not feeling icky and like I'm not doing enough, but also I don't think it's a good sort of energy or state to be in, like when actually doing the copy or the promotion either. Like I want to feel in that flow of, and I can sometimes get into it, but I have to work harder to get into that feel, like when I'm writing copy or when I'm tweaking things and when I'm reaching out, when I feel that way. Because then it feels more like these things that I'm not accomplishing when really it's endless, right? So I can decide this much I'm going to do. I can do that, but it seems that something in me doesn't think I can do that. So,
is it, you mentioned writing copy and tweaking things. Is this the part that's like kind of getting to you, like that kind of stuff?
I think it's just anything to do really with the marketing. I guess it's mostly
Marketing. Okay.
because it's trying to reach, like I want so badly to reach people, partly because it's a business, but mainly because I'm like, oh, we as these IAT coaches have so much to offer. It's really needed in the world. So it's like coming from this good place. But then when I realize, and, there's so many resources out there that are like, and you could be doing this and you can be doing that. And here's how you can reach people. And here's what you can do to, get your voice out there. Yeah, that's when it starts to it kind of got overwhelming for a while. So I was trying to do all the things, or maybe not literally all the things, but like 90% of the things.
Feels like it, right?
And I was like, oh, good. This is great. I realized that and pacing myself out. And now I'm like, oh no, now I'm in despair. Nothing's going to work out. Like I'm not being perfect. I'm not doing all the things, so.
Yeah. So when would you say the last time you really felt that despair come up was?
Oh, yesterday.
Oh, okay. So this is like a super recent. Okay. And was anything specifically happening when that despair came up? Like, can you talk about a specific situation when this came up, or is it a general thing?
It's what I think I sort of have it in the back of my awareness with that bit of despair. So it's maybe not always so forward, like that I like sort of sense it whenever so I use Asana for my to-do list, which is great. And it's been really helpful. So I don't forget things and just sort of can like pull them out of my brain and put them there. And then I get the reminders for all kinds of things. But I do check it fairly regularly. And so very often that's when because I'll see, I'm often moving to do the pacing. I'm often moving a to-do list item. So I'll be like, oh, there's that to-do list item. I moved to the next month. I'm going to move into the next month, and it really, I know on some level that's okay. It's not something I have to do immediately, but it brings up that inner belief or despair or something that doesn't feel like that's okay.
Interesting. Okay. So on the conscious level, like, because, I know you've been doing this work for a long time and you are an amazing coach. So sometimes that can actually be really hard when we kind of know all the steps and we know what we're doing, right? And we're kind of, especially for us coaches, right? It sometimes could be really hard to be coached. That's why I love that you're on here. Because it's like, we should just be able to figure this out. And I know on a conscious level, it's fine. But it also sounds like, on a really deep level, something is really going on. So tell me a little bit more about what it's like when you open up. Did you say it's called Asana?
Asana. So
Asana. Is it like an app?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it used to be like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like the pose thing or not. But that's your mindset.
Cool. And it's like a task manager app. That sounds really great.
It's task manager app.
Oh, that's awesome. I need to look that up for myself now. That's great. So this is a place where you're able to kind of dump your ideas onto as well. Is that right?
Including steps. So it can be as big scale or as little scale as you want.
Great. And you're putting them in there and then you go to open up Asana.
Mm-hmm.
So take me through this immediately. Like, is it on your phone or is it on your computer? Because I really want you to visualize where we're at.
It's both, but I use it mostly on my phone. So I'm mostly looking at done.
So when you go to look at it on your phone, are you usually in a place where like you're in your quote unquote work hours, or are you somewhere else opening it up?
It spills over because I do have personal to-do list items mixed in with the work items. And so more is during the day, during what I consider work hours, but it can be anytime sometimes.
When you look at the two different types of items, have you ever felt the same similar despair when you're looking at your personal to-do list, or does it typically only come up when you're thinking about your coaching business?
It seems to be only, I'd say there's another category that it also shows for, which also involves like a longer term project kind of thing, because I also write. And so that gets pushed back a lot too. So that also, but even more, I'd say with anything that's sort of, this like getting it out there and the marketing and the entrepreneurial stuff, like it really is around that. It's definitely not for the personal to-do list items.
Okay. So you really kind of are getting this feel when it's coming up. Now I'm asking you all these questions just to kind of keep digging, right? Like to just like keep going. And if you ever come up with anything, like as we're digging, as we're talking, or you've had a thought, please just like jump in and be like, wait, it's this, Jen. So let's keep digging. So specifically when it comes to marketing, is there anything going on there for you that you've dug into or looked into? Does it make you Okay, let's stop there for a second. Marketing is hard. What does marketing mean? Marketing means we have to promote ourselves. What does promoting ourselves means? Means we kind of have to have a self-worth, doesn't it? Like, and up here on a conscious level, I think we know our self-worth. But have you ever struggled with your self-worth on a subconscious level? Like, is that anything in any of your healing you've had to deal with?
I think it is, but it kind of comes in like a slightly different flavor than people often use it. It's kind of like, maybe it's more codependent flavor almost when I'm thinking about it. I don't know. Like it's kind of more like I need to be helping these people. I need to do everything I can to get it out there. I need to, so it's like, I feel like I have something worthy to offer. So that's there. And I'm okay with putting myself out there because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this, like almost drive to do that.
That's beautiful. Let me stop down there real quick then. What happens if if people don't find you?
Yeah. So I feel like that's somehow my fault. Like if they don't find me, which is why the pacing is like hard for me, because it's like, but someone could have found me in the interim. What if there was someone who needed the help? Yeah.
And this idea that it's my fault, like, have you struggled with the wounding of like, I am to blame, like in your life and other places or?
Yeah. And it wasn't even so much, again, it kind of has its own flavor. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of been more like I'm responsible for everything. Like I'm the one who's responsible.
Is there anything else, anywhere else in your life right now where you're feeling like you're having to take on the brunt of the responsibility anywhere else in your life?
I mean, there are things that I'm very responsible for, in my family, for example, but I feel like it's more shared.
Okay.
But I haven't, like in the past, that hasn't always been true.
Oh, okay.
That's more a healed area.
So that's great. Yeah. Because something that what I wanted to do with you here real quick, and that way as well, anyone listening, like, what am I doing kind of thing. What I'm trying to do is try to also see this might have nothing to do with your business. In fact, what can often happen is we take something in another part of our life and start projecting it onto kind of the safe or unsafe parts of us where that's there. And it sounds like this isn't the case for you. So that's beautiful. This is why you're here, because we're just digging, right? And we're like, is it this? No. Is it over here? No. Okay, let's keep going.
Well, I think that's interesting because it's not a projection, but I do think that, when I worked on that, it was like core wounds and stuff. So it's like, sounds very similar, but in this area when we're talking about it now.
Yeah, because something really powerful for me that came up, that's an obvious story, is it's my fault if they don't find me. So I'd love to really just dig into that. But specifically, like that came out of your subconscious as you were thought processing.
Yeah. And I think it's this real conflict in me, which is probably why it's blind spot. It's been hard for me to see myself. Well, it's really hard to see our own blind spots, obviously, which
really
is helpful. Because, a part of me like has this completely different belief, which is that like people find you at the right time. There's almost like, energetic spiritual belief around that. And so like that it does come together and everything works out. And like, so there is that side of me too, but there's clearly this other part of me.
Yeah.
That is like, no, you have to like do all the stuff. And if you don't do it, then it won't happen. And then it's your fault. And then,
Well, I wondered, so there's one thing that we could just do here then is you could obviously just try, I say obviously, I don't mean it like that, but like you could legit try a 21-day reprogramming of this. This could just be something that's so ingrained inside of you. You know the conscious, you see the evidence, you absolutely believe that people will find you at the right time, but you have a deep-seated belief that this is your responsibility, right?
I do. And it's funny because when you said it just now, even though I just said I have that part of me that believes it, you said, and you believe that people will find you at the right time. Something in me, like deep in the pit of my belly was like, no, like I don't like, so the deeper part of me really doesn't believe it.
Beautiful. Yeah. And actually what you just explained right there is exactly why it's so important for us to understand our somatic feelings, right? Because without realizing it, because you're so in tune in your body now, right? With all the healing you've done and all of this kind of stuff, there's no way you could have gotten to that. Like, I don't know, however many years ago before you've really
long time.
Yeah, right? Like
a long time to get there.
Because that wasn't obvious. It was just you felt it in your stomach. But because you have an understanding of what that feels like in your stomach, you're like, oh, wait, there's something there. So it does sound like so I'm going to say it again to you. Be like, people will find you when they're meant to find you. So what comes up for you in that? Is there any thoughts going on? Are there any stories going on?
And I just said that. I said, if I do all the steps, if I do everything perfectly, it's just immediately wants to tag on there.
Do you have any more of those subconscious thoughts? I keep them like, so I'm going to say it to you one more time I want you to vomit on me if you can. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you just said something else that I think is really impactful. So let me see your blind spot. So people will find you at the right time.
Yes. I do all the steps perfectly. Mm-hmm. There's maybe an urgency there too, like I have to do them right away. I do them if I do them perfectly also, I have to do all of them. I have to do them perfectly and I need to do them faster. So
so what we have here is a perfectionism, right? A responsibility, and then like a time like fear. So
it's really fascinating because especially with the time like fear, maybe it feels like I can feel that dysregulation, which my mind, of course, is like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not a dangerous thing, but that's not how it feels in my body right now.
Mm-hmm. So between those three things then, so we kind of actually dove a little bit into the responsibility thing. It doesn't seem like you have anywhere in your life right now, but now that you have that understanding and kind of like realization or like lightening of it, take a look in your life. Where can you give up a little bit more responsibility, right? You have that. But let's also dive a little bit into that perfectionism that sounded, because that's what got me excited a little bit when you like put that out, right? Which is like, if I do everything perfectly. And I was like, oh, that was telling.
It's connected to that worthiness core wound that I've worked on in other areas. I can tell it is because it's kind of like I'm worthy if I'm perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's showing up in this particular. If I do things perfectly, if I show up perfectly, if I, and that's come through in other areas of my life before and I worked on it, but it's popping out here now. So
it likes to just keep popping up, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, perfectionism trauma is like that. And I feel like a lot of us coaches have that specifically. I mean, a lot of us have been through our own personal traumas, our own personal issues. That's what gets us excited. And then here we are trying to come coach. And of course, we're not perfect, right? I'm definitely not. For example, and I feel you. I'll bring in a little bit of my example. For this coaching call between us, I forgot to fix up my scheduling program app thing to take off that I'm not available at 12:30. And I remember feeling so scared that I had to reach out to you and say, hey, could I make this at 1:00 instead? Right. So all of these thoughts are going through my mind. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, if I have to change the time, she's going to cancel on me. She's going to think I'm unprofessional. She's going to think that this is a joke. She's not going to take this seriously. Like, do you see where my thoughts are going? They're going to be different than yours. Do you have any thoughts coming up for you?
More hyperachiever focus, which makes sense because I have been that like more in the past. So in all kinds of areas. So it seems to be a lot around the doing.
Okay.
So when I said showing up, but it's like more around showing up for it as the showing up. So it's very like, sort of hyperachievement focused, I think.
Okay. So you have the hyperachievement. In the past, what have you done to work on this hyperachievement?
Just besides, the core wound, so where I could realize that that's why it was showing up in my life. So I guess, so including reprogramming those core wounds, but also some very specific step kind of things. Like, in my life, I've very much worked on getting out of my head into my body, which then involved a lot of healing because that was partly why I didn't want to be in my body. But
yeah, exactly.
But I was also very like in a thinking, doing kind of mode, that brain sort of mode with the hyperachieving. And so definitely got into like body practices and meditation and trying to like mindfulness in my day. So all those kinds of practices help me see and not like into this future oriented hyperachieving mode. So beliefs in there.
How could you take what you worked on in the past in terms of like your life and your relationships and put that into what's going on here with your business in terms of this hyperachieving? So again, you have your phone, you're opening up the app and you immediately, can we backtrack real quick? Because I meant to ask you this earlier. Where do you feel it in your body when you open up your phone and you feel this anxiety rise up?
Yeah, I would say it's sort of higher, like maybe on my shoulders and my head, that like slightly more frenetic feeling.
So you're getting that feeling as you go to open up your app and it's starting to come up because again, you have this, kind of like, I have to get this done. If I don't, it's my fault. And the only way I can get it done is if it's perfect, which of course, right, is just like a cycle of like, I can't get it done. It's my fault. It's perfect. If you took some of those past practices that you did. And you brought them into your business now with this, what might you do, say, before you open up your app or anything, or maybe after you close your app? Is there anything like this that's coming up for you, what you could be doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I could be doing sort of a mindfulness, meditative type practice of really getting into the feel of like why I want to coach. Because ironically, like, I'm saying, because I want to, that's sort of like why I have to do all the things. But really, when I'm in that mode most strongly of like this is like why I'm doing this. Then I am in this much calmer place, more integrated place. And it has the tire knowing, I guess you could say that it will work out and I can do the paid thing and that that's not going to derail everything.
Now, one of the things that I really like to do with this kind of stuff, that way we're not kind of getting stuck in any sort of toxic positivity kind of thing, right?
Right.
Is diving down the road of, because I've heard you say a couple times, like now, like what will happen if it won't work out?
Mm-hmm.
Like what happens if you don't do it? And I would just love to explore that with you because in our deepest fears is where we find what's holding us back.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump in.
Like, oh, which one should I say? I had
Again, throw them all at me.
Yeah. So I had the one up again, which is kind of like, well, what if there was someone and which now when I'm saying it, I'm like, they don't necessarily need actually me. I mean, it's already like countering it, right? It doesn't have to be literally me. They can find another coach because there are other good coaches too. But I don't know. There's something there still that I get a responsibility piece that has that attached to it. And then definitely coming up just more from like the me wanting to do this as my vocation and like, well, then what if I don't get any clients? That kind of piece of it. I guess those are the two big ones that came up.
Mm-hmm. And what happens if you don't get any clients?
Then I'll start questioning, can I do this because of finances? And like that, you might go that route. Mm-hmm. That can I put as much attention on it? Do I need to like time between something else I'm also doing, but I don't really, I want to put more focus on this and growing it.
Well, that's good. One of the things you said then there was finances. So can you, like how long? So the reason I'm bringing up all this stuff too is potentially what you could also be doing is making like a strategy for how long can you go on here, not doing these marketing things until you have to make a change. So let's say, for a fact you have 6 months of finances ready to go. Sometimes just knowing that it's like setting down an intention. There's almost something I can almost tell that your brain's avoiding. It's like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, like it's almost like, no, I don't want to look there. It's like, come this way with me. And then you like take a hard left.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's that I haven't wanted to like go to the blind spots because like, I don't want to think like that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But growing it, I don't want to think about like, well, what would happen if, but you're right that can be helpful though. So.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's so powerful and impactful. It's like, I'm a really big proponent on never like going with the problem ever, right? Like we want to work towards a solution. And just like with the ironic processing theory, like the things that we focus on tend to be the things that come true. So by no means when we go down this road, are we focusing here? And also, what is the fear that you're having? And how can we work towards a solution with that fear? So right now you have part of it is like, well, it's your responsibility. I feel like that's kind of a, I'm going to say easy in quotation marks, one that we know how to kind of build with evidence. Because as soon as you even said it, you were like, well, I know it's not.
Yeah.
I
just probably need to do some of that with myself where I just really feel into that. Like, it doesn't have to be me, myself, I'm not responsible for the entire world.
Right. I mean, and thank God, right? Like, because that would be a lot of pressure. But you are responsible for the people that come to you. And even then, I would love to really challenge you. Because like, let me ask you for a question. Am I right now responsible for you?
No.
And I am coaching you right now, right?
Right.
So this idea even that you're responsible for the other person's healing, like you said, and you said this like in the beginning, which I loved, had that flavor. I love that word. I love how you say that flavor of codependency. Mm-hmm. And so that actually takes away the empowerment of our clients as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it makes it sound like you're the reason they're going to heal, but that's not true. We're just the vessel, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say it that way, like as vessels, it's also even easier to see that it can be someone else and that it sort of, can work out in so many ways for people.
Yeah. And I know like on a higher level, you have that understanding. I know that and I feel that we've had those conversations, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what's so beautiful. And thank you for being so vulnerable about this. I think that's like a big piece of coaching that we forget. Like we get so connected to our clients. Like they're like our babies after a while, right? They're like, I mean, half the time, even with this podcast, I can't seem to actually end the conversations with anyone. I'm always like, why don't you come on again? I want to know how it happened. But I realize like what happens to them isn't about me. Like, I don't need to know. I'm just here in the moment. I'm just a part of their story for a half a second while they like go off and do their thing. And I may never know how it worked out. I want to know, right? Like I'm incredibly nosy about it.
And I can really feel that when you're saying that. That's why it's not just, that heady thing where I'm like sort of no in that way. Like I can feel that in my belly actually too. Is like just this like resonance with even the time part of it. Like is, it's like when it's the time and it comes together and like it's so much more present oriented too.
I love that too. And then being in that like understanding and more just kind of that higher space of understanding that it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And really allowing and seeing that your clients are, and I mean, I know you know this, I'm just throwing this out there again, as almost just like a reframe of like, they are their own like autonomous beings in this, right? Like, and you could help them completely once or twice, and then they go and they get other help. I mean, I know for myself, I've had so many therapists and coaches.
And with my own clients, I mean, I've already referred people out when they have under their needs. And so when I see that part of it, it's good evidence.
Okay.
Because it's a slightly different thing, but it's kind of the same thing.
So with this reframe, let me ask you to kind of go in with this again real quick with me. Do you think that reframe shifted anything in you? Or do you think that the idea still of having to get this marketing done is still weighing heavy on you? Because before we move forward, I want to know where you are with this. So if you visualize again, opening up your phone.
I mean, right now I'm feeling the shift, but I think that it is pretty like strongly in there in my subconscious. So probably I will want to work with it.
Okay, great. Then in that
going back to this in this way.
In that case, let's do a couple practical tools then as well. So it sounds like we kind of got to the depth of where it's coming from. So we have the reframe. And so we know to do that. I had an idea and you could like take or leave anything I say always. But something that was coming up for me for you was before you open up your app. Now, this is going to take a while. In fact, like, and sometimes in order to heal and move faster, like with our marketing or anything, we actually have to slow down. Right?
Right.
So before you open up your app to look at your next task that you have to do.
Yeah.
I would love for you to not open it up unless you're in a place where you can spend 3 to 5 minutes really doing almost like a somatic processing to release whatever the feeling is in your shoulders before you open up the thing or as you're opening it up. Does that make sense? Because what we're going to do here is like actual exposure work of retraining your body to feel safe in the app, because I think your body has gotten a little bit too used to getting scared with the app. Does that make any sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, cool. Great. And so I would love this for you. I think this is a fun, unique reprogramming. So reprogramming, of course, we can do in our alpha theta brainwaves when we're laying it down to sleep at night. And we all do the auto suggestion reprogramming. Most of us know about that. If you don't, I'll talk about it later. But with this is what we call like exposure work reprogramming, right? This is the kind of thing when we, in our relationship, set the small boundary and then we have to sit back and we have to be like, okay, I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. So for you, it's almost like instant once you're opening up the app. I'm sensing that it's coming up for you. And that's why I wanted to ask you where you were feeling it. And you mentioned kind of in your shoulder area, kind of up here, maybe even your neck. Now, with all the work you've done before, talk me through, well, if you want to, you can even do this on your own when you want to. But I'm really big on like the somatic visualization. So if you want to, would you go along with the process with me? Maybe someone else might get something out of this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you're opening up your app. Tell me where you feel the stress and the anxiety coming up in your body.
Yeah, no. So it actually kind of it did shoot up to the shoulders, but when I was in neck area, but it actually came from that belly area. So it kind of shot up like it almost like something like a geyser, like something like shooting up, like, and then it was up here. So
that's beautiful. Because I was just going to ask if you could like put a picture to that. What would it be? And it sounds like you're saying like a geyser. So it's down here in the pit of your stomach. And would you consider that like a water geyser or is it anything else?
I was picturing it like water. Yeah.
Okay. And how, like, is it coming up fast and hard? Is it more like a trickle? What's going on there?
No, yeah, fast and hard. And then it's up here and then it feels different. It feels more like scattered droplets or something.
Okay.
Or when it's up in my shoulders and neck.
Does that hurt up there at all with those scattered? Like, do you also want to kind of get rid of that? Is there like a heaviness going because the water is like collecting or?
It's actually much light, but it's uncomfortable. Like almost like clear, like it's not feeling.
Yeah. So when you go to open up your app and that geyser releases all of that water, In a somatic processing sense, what we're going to do here is not talk about the practical aspect of the app whatsoever. We're going to work with the visualization that you have of this geyser first. And so what we're going to do is try to find a way to stop the geyser from erupting. And so if you were to visualize that, what might you do to prevent this geyser from erupting and splattering stuff all over your shoulders?
First thing I was picturing was some kind of stirring. I don't know why that would work, but that's what came to my mind.
Okay. And stirring how? Like with an object, with your hand? Like how would it work?
Almost with some sort of cooking utensil kind of thing. Like you'd stir some pasta in a pot or something.
Okay. And is that going inside of like the geyser?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so by doing that, are you calming the geyser down?
So, yeah.
Okay. The type of spoon you're holding, is it wooden? Is it metal? Is it plastic, silicone?
It's like maybe you got that silicone kind of end and then it's otherwise a wooden end, a wooden handle.
Okay. And you're using that. Now, this is really specific, but do you know if you're going clockwise or counterclockwise?
Yeah, it seems to be clockwise.
Okay. So you're going clockwise. And now what's happening to the geyser? Is it still shooting out or has it like relaxed?
It still has a lot of energy in it, but it's relaxed. It's not so much that it's going to shoot up.
That's beautiful. So there's a lot of energy there, but so long as you keep stirring, it's kind of relaxed or like, not spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
That's really, I love that so much for you.
The energy doesn't necessarily feel bad, actually.
Yeah.
When it's there and like that, it feels just maybe like more the power center kind of feeling or something like that, like energy that can be used for something. It doesn't feel
that would be your power center of your body, of your area. And so there's a lot going on there for you. But instead of directing that power to where you want it to go, it's just exploding everywhere and it's like tickling your shoulders, right? And so you're like, that's uncomfortable and I don't like that.
Yeah.
So you're going to come in and you're going to stir it and you're going to relax it. And it's the energy is still going to be there. We're not getting rid of that energy because that energy is driving you and it's like pushing you forward and it's beautiful. We're just redirecting it now by calming it down first. And then you get to choose where you want that energy to go after this.
Yeah.
So and whenever you're ready, if you want to come join me again.
Feel good. I was enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm a kind of person, then I felt better. So
I really like this practice a lot when sometimes there's just, when you can go through every single like practical, logical, conscious thing and you're like, I know what to do. I know what to do. So this is obviously in a subconscious somatic space for you right now.
Yes.
So before you even let's say we were working together long term and I were to see you again next week, I would want you to slow way down. I would want you to not even process on how to start marketing. I would want you to feel safe with opening the app again.
Yeah.
So every time you open the app, it's coming from a place of excitement. That energy that you're feeling in your gut, I want that to be formed in a way where it's like, I get to do this.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yes. And that's how I felt. I felt that way some months ago.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was before I was doing the pacing because I was kind of just able to go pretty hard. And so this hadn't come up as an issue. So it did feel more that way. So I think, I definitely think this will help.
Yeah. And then after that, once you're there, then you kind of just get to figure out the ideas of you do the reframe with your clients and you understand you're not responsible for them, right? That just really helps us to just to kind of relax into it anyways and to relax into the fact of it really helps. I mean, if we're not responsible for their healing, we get to be as imperfect, right? That kind of thing. And things like that are going to happen. And then I think the last thing on there was just a tiny little practical thing. If you did want to work on it was, we barely touched on this, but I would still recommend just going through your finances and seeing how long can you go on like this? Because you might find, actually, I'm fine. I've got a year. You might find oh crap, I have 3 months to sustain this. I do need to step it up a little bit. So the intention of that would really help with knowing where to go next. Because if there's a time crunch there too, that was the only last thing that I would kind of think about. I wonder what that time crunch is about. But I feel like we've gone through so much already. I don't want to overwhelm you.
Yeah, no, I think I'll do that at some point too. I'll probably start with the first 2 pieces and then at some point, maybe next week or something.
Great.
I have a sense of it already, but I'm realizing that it's not necessarily based on like all the facts. So I should look into whether or not that's actually the true date. So
see that's really good, because that intention, like that's the part where I feel like if there's a blind spot there, never be afraid to just like dive right into it. If you are afraid to look at your finances for any reason because you're like, well, I'm afraid what it's going to tell me. They're like, I am afraid if I look at my finances, it's actually going to tell me I need to work on this harder. And so I'm already scared and I have to work on this harder. And so this is just going to make it worse. But it's actually really weird, but it might not make it worse. It might actually just enlighten you enough to be like, okay, this is actually really important. I do need to give this my time and energy. Let me figure out how to just get this done then.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, with all of those things, what would you say with all of the things we talked about? I know we talked about a lot. We went all over the place. But any big aha moments for you? Anything, any takeaways, or do you have any questions?
Yeah, I would say 2 takeaways. I mean, the biggest one being the somatic, which I think I would have maybe thought to do some mindfulness technique, but having it be so specific to that particular energy or feeling is very targeted. And so I love it. And then with the coaching, I feel like I'm dipping back in there with the whole thing of the responsibility and really knowing better, whatever. So like I'm realizing I need to make that actually a practice. So it's like knowing it a couple of times isn't doing it. So I think, and it makes sense because I've had, so much like codependency in the past and stuff that I've worked through. And sometimes when it crops up, it really does need that reprogramming. So I'm probably going to do it in definitely a reprogramming style, where I'm going through that again, like why I'm, not responsible for that.
Yeah. And I love that so much. Can I just say, I think, first off, again, so vulnerable of you to just like come in and like share this, especially as a coach, right? Because so many of us feel like as coaches, we have to be perfect before we can start coaching, which is like not at all the case. In fact, the more imperfect we are, I think the more we can help others. And I love how you know this about yourself with the level of enmeshment or codependency that you've had in the past. And like anything, we see where it kind of comes in a little bit again, like with any relationships, with anything that we do. And we have a new thing coming up and it excites you and elicits emotional response out of your body. So of course, it's going to pull up those old kind of wirings inside of you because it brings up your passion. And when were the last times you've probably been passionate? Probably in relationships where there's been codependency, all of that makes sense why our bodies go there again. And so I love this for you. I love that you see it. There's no judgment. I can feel that there's absolutely no judgment to that. You're just like, oh yeah, there it is again. Okay, great. I'm going to work on that. And I think that's just a beautiful place to be in.
It took me so long to get to that point. It used to make me in such despair when something wasn't solved, when it crept back in any way. But really, it is this beautiful part of the healing journey. And so now I really think of it kind of the opposite, actually. Like that is how we get better. So it's like it's actually like these beautiful clues to help us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that so much. Well, I think with that, do you have any questions before we finish up?
No, I do not. This was great.
Thank you so much for coming on with me. This was seriously such a great conversation, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was my coaching call with Sonja. And as you can see, she was really struggling with a little bit of perfectionism going on there, but it didn't seem to matter any logical solution we were getting to. And so that's why I decided to take her through the somatic experience of what was going on inside of her body when she was opening up the app, trying to basically rewire those neural pathways that are stuck in their ways inside of her head. And so by going through a somatic process, we're able to identify the somatic feeling inside of her body. And then just through a visualization, we can get her to relax. Now, that's not the only thing to be doing there, but it sounds like she was already well aware of all of the logical ways in which she could be healing this. And she just needed help on that one kind of space where she just kept feeling like something was going on inside of her. And so I can take some time in a future podcast to talk more about how to unlock the somatic experience. It can be quite difficult at first if you're not used to feeling things inside of your body. But for today, at least, I'll encourage you, start noticing how you feel in your body when things are happening. Does your stomach drop when you hear bad news? Does your hands start to burn when you're around somebody who makes you angry? All of these things inside of you, those are your emotions, your somatic emotions that are bubbling up inside. Like the butterflies in the stomach or the pounding in the head. This is all part of our somatic experiencing. And then later on, I'll get into more how we can adapt to that and how we start to understand it a little bit more and then add in the visualizations. But for right now, let's just start there. I'll do another podcast later on and we will see if that's where we want to go with this. So thank you so much for listening today. And I look forward to our next conversation. Take care. As we wrap up today's conversation, always remember that healing is a journey, not a destination. And it is an honor to be a part of your healing journey. If you want to dig deeper into the topics we covered today, be sure to head over to our show notes where you can find all of the valuable information mentioned in today's episode right there. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's podcast. Your feedback means the world to us and helps others discover our podcast. Until next time, remember to speak up and speak honest.